Good afternoon, everyone present here on this platform. On behalf of Choitram College of Nursing, I, Professor Sheetal Saxena, take proud privilege to welcome you all in today's international webinar, which is being organized on the topic Leadership and Tactics. So friends, do you think that leadership matters in a healthcare organization? Yes, of course, leadership matters. Uh, there is zero chance of any business actually achieving its goal without taking benefit of its great leaders. And this is especially true in case of healthcare industries. So according to Joint Commission, healthcare industries or organizations, these are comprises of processes, people and resources that must be led effectively to achieve desired outcome of high quality and safe patient care. So when an organization has significant numbers of skilled leaders, it it fosters or it creates innovation, creativity, and quality. And it creates a culture where employees feel safe, empowered, motivated, and they feel supported. So, but not all of us are truly effective leader. Yes, we are not truly effective leader when even despite of our best intentions. So what is it that can make some certain professionals to stand out when in times of leadership? What organization can do to develop leadership among its stakeholders? So talking on all these issues, we have Ms. Sino Thomas today amongst us. She will be dealing and she will be throwing light on all these issues. So let's see her brief introduction. So Ms. Sino Thomas, she is graduate from College of Nursing, MY, Indore, and she did her master's in child health nursing from Bangalore University, Rajiv Gandhi University. She did her MBA in material management. She is MHA in HR, and she is MPhil. She has attended training of ambulatory care from Joint Commission, JCI. Presently, she is working in Aster DM Healthcare, where she is Assistant General Manager Nursing and nursing HOD of nursing clinics and hospitals in UAE, Dubai, and Bahrain. So before I hand over mic to Ms. Sino Thomas, I would like to give some instructions for the attendees or the participants that the feedback link will be shared in the comment box to submit your feedback. You will get certificate only after submitting your valuable feedback, and you are requested to ask relevant questions related to the topic. And please do not request for sharing PPT, as the presentation is intellectual property of the expert speaker. Now I welcome Ms. Sino Thomas to proceed with her topic. Over to you, Ms. Sino Thomas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Sheetal. I am thankful to Choitram College of Nursing for organizing this webinar and a platform for all of us to come together to share our learning. I would like to thank Professor Archana Michael, who has been the organizing chairperson, and Professor Sheetal Saxena, who is the organizing secretary for this webinar. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I hope I do a lot of justice to the topic given. Basically, I will not be covering any sort of a theoretical perspective. I will be looking and sharing with you in our day-to-day life, in our practical exposure, in our professional exposure, what are the things that we have learned and we have evolved. Looking at my own journey as nursing head for many organizations in the past 15 years, I've realized that every single day is a new way of doing things. And the leadership which we learned in those books and texts are different today. The leader's definition is different. The leader's perspective is different. How we do things are different. And this pandemic, specifically in this year 2020, has led us into a lot of different ways in which we are looking at things. Actually, it has given, though it is a crisis, it has also helped us to evolve the inside person of each one of us. I'm sure all of us, whether we are students, whether we are teachers, whether we are professionals anywhere, we all have developed new methodologies of dealing with our perspectives. Even a student is now going ahead and doing an online class. A child which has been started the school this year who is not even, who may have dreamt of a school and a school bus, is actually sitting in front of a laptop. And before this scenario, we were actually telling children not to see screens too much, but today we are helpless. We have to ask them to sit in front of it for around 8 hours and comply with their educational requirements. So you see a lot of transition has happened. So it becomes important for all of us to be more agile. What is the meaning of agility? Agility means you change immediately. When we were talking about and learning science, one of the metallic properties of metals is when they get heated, they are, metallic contents can take the shape of the vessels in which they are. They get molded in that shape. That is a very important quality in today's world required. A leader has to look at things around him. A leader has to look at the type of people they are with. And sometimes in today's scenario, specifically with this pandemic hitting, and wherever we see, cost effectiveness has been looked in. So because of that, optimization of manpower, optimization of each and every resource plays a very, very vital role. So let me get into the presentation and share with you the content which I have prepared. Let's learn together. All right. Okay. I hope we are on it together. All right. So what are we going to learn today? The learning objective today basically is going to be how or the way the people cope with uncertainty and stress differs from person to person. This has to be understood from a leader perspective, that the team that we are leading, whether it is a group of students, whether it is a group of employees, they are not the same. So that's the reason that when we lead a team of nurses who are going to manage a particular ward, when we lead a team of students who are going to do a particular research, they are not the same. Everybody is different. Everybody's emotional quotient is different. Everybody's family background is different. Okay, but what happens, we need to learn over here that there are ways the manager can spot the sign that an employee or a colleague may be suffering. Now, the challenge with which the leaders work in today's scenario is to get the work done out of the employee whom they are working with. You see, so but the emotional quotient of the employee has to be gauged. A leader should be able to judge, and this is what we will understand, how we need to look at different perspectives to understand what is the state of the employee's mind, what is the state of our colleagues' mind. Are they going through something? And if they are going through something, will they be able to deal with this situation in that right manner, what we're expecting the outcome as? Secondly, we will understand how to build a resilience, a high-performing organizational culture where the staff feel comfortable sharing the concern. Very, very important that the organizations understand that the employee should be feeling free to express their thoughts, express their ideas. If they don't feel comfortable, they should not just follow it, but they should be able to put across. So that's what we will understand. We will also learn the critical steps the leaders and the managers must take to support the well-being and the team members who are finding it hard to cope. It is very, very important, because you cannot stand on the epitome of the mountain standing alone as a leader, not having anybody else with you. Lastly, each furloughed employee returning to work, every day a person finishes the job, goes back and comes back again to work. And at the end of the day, probably an exhausted employee goes back, but comes back again the next day looking forward to do its best, to serve the best towards the patient. Okay, so this person should be considered as an opportunity for the organization in order to learn, in order to adapt, and in order to prepare for the future. So this is what we will try to grasp today. I love this picture. I'm sure many of us must have seen in our social media, which talks about, when we talk about leadership, a pack of wolves is very clearly explaining what is today's scenario for a leader. Now, if you look at the first three wolves here, the wolves, the group of wolves is called pack, and they walk together. When they are traveling a journey, they will walk together. They have a very particular pattern in which they are moving. You see, the first three are ones which are very old and sick. They are the most weakest member of the group. Okay, what do? They put them always in the front. Why is it important to put them in the front? Because their speed is less, their capacity is less, and they are very vulnerable. They can be attacked by any enemy, and they can actually cause stagnation. If they are behind, an enemy can attack, another animal can attack, and they can be killed. But in the pack of wolves, they're always kept in the front. Why? Because they will determine the speed at which the whole pack has to move. If a smart wolf is in the front, the speed will be vulnerable, and these wolves will not be able to catch up with it. This is a very important strategy in today's world. Anybody in the group of people that we are leading with, a group of students who are weak, a group of employees who have different, who are not up to the mark of that capacity, the talent or the skills required for an employee is less. We need to consider them at the top to build those capacities in them so that they are at the first and they will be able to mix together. Second, if you see the next square, a red square which you see is the next 5. The second 5 are the strongest. So if you look at it, the weakest are in the front, the medium ones are in the back, and the strongest ones are in the middle. So they bridge the gap between the weak and the average ones. And these are the people who will remain and will strengthen the group, and they will bring the pack together. What else is there? The last one over there, if you look at it, in the pack of wolf, this wolf is the leader and it is known as the alpha wolf. Now what happens? He controls everything, okay? But if you look at the leadership, the leader is not in the front. Ideally speaking, leader should lead from the front. That is what we all have learned from the beginning. Leader has to be the person who has to be in the front, who has to lead from the front. But here, we very clearly see that the alpha wolf is in the back. Why? It is controlling everything from the rear position. That position can control the whole group. From back, the leader can see everything, every single member's space, every single member's strategy. He can decide the direction which they have to go. He can anticipate who is attacking them. So the pack will follow a particular rhythm with the elders who are following in front and head the command that is imparted by this alpha wolf. I really love this, and this transformational leadership which is required in today's world. This picture very clearly depicts how in today's world we have to be a leader. So having all the qualities of a leader, it is not always required to be in the front. You can actually do the best by even being at the back, understanding the capacity of each and every member in the team and building each one of us. Let me take you further. Basic critical understanding for a leader requirement is that he should have a critical reflection and insight. If you look at it, they should be having accountability and responsibility for their own practice. They should be proactive, challenging their own self. Becoming the best of our own self is very important. Becoming more aware of your impact on others. Very, very important to take feedbacks from people about our leadership. Asking people, whether that impact which I'm trying to create is going to them or not. Second important element over here is learning for self. We should know ourselves very, very well as a leader. We should be setting the goals for developing our learning plans. So learning doesn't stop just because you are in a position. You have to learn from your own mistakes. Secondly, you have to learn from others, and you should have a quality of mentorship and support to the other team members as well. Third element is enabling others. Now, you being the most smart person doesn't help and doesn't give you outcomes. Ultimately, your leadership should lead the organization into a direction in which the vision and the mission of the organization is achieved. If we are not able to do that by having all the team members together, we will never be able to achieve by ourselves. We need people to do. So enabling others becomes very important. Giving and receiving the critical feedback. As you give the feedback to the employees or the subordinates or the colleagues, similarly receiving it back is important. Developing leadership in others is also very important. There is a story over here which I would like to say. When you look at a group of frogs which are put in a particular vessel, there's a hollow cylindrical one in which the frogs are being put. If you look at it, for days go by also, none of the frog will come out. Why? Because when one frog is trying to climb and come out, the other frog is also trying to come out, but it is holding the hand of the leg which pulls the frog back into it. Resultantly, everybody remains there. So, understanding this example, it's very important that we build people up. You are pushed up only when others grow. You need another position to take. Another position has to be available for your employee and colleague to take. So you have to build these competencies in the colleague to develop and bring them to that level. So building the team is very important. Fourth element is developing the strategies, which includes emotional intelligence. More than intelligence quotient today, emotional intelligence in the today's practical world is very, very important. How we tackle our emotion, how we tackle the organizational emotion, how we tackle the employee emotion matters a lot in today's world. Resilience. You have a capacity to be opaque to anything. Whatever comes, you are ready to face it. That resilience feeling is very, very important. I have been working, most of the time you must have heard, I work in this way only, my style is not going to change. Such leadership will always face challenge in becoming more agile and becoming more adaptable to the newer patterns. Working with strategic and political intent and building healthy relationship. Networking in today's world is very, very important. One important skill specifically to students, I would say, that you should know how to talk to each other, how to build up more bonds with different departments, how to build up bonds beyond the organization, and bringing the whole same fraternity and other fraternity together, learning from different departments, finance, whether it is HR, whether it is insurance, we build up all together. Networking matters a lot in today's leadership. You knowing your field itself is not enough. You need to have that skill of speaking and connecting and communicating so that everybody bridges together and everybody grows together. So networking plays an important role. This is a framework for a particular leader to be really, really effective. The core insight talks about the values with which in today's world also we can really be effective. That talks about compassion, humility, integrity, and public service purpose. These 4 values should be integrated in us as a person. We need to have compassion towards the customer that we are serving, whether we are into a healthcare, whether we are into any areas, but we need to understand the customer is the king, and based on the customer's requirement, these elements need to be monitored. We need to be humble so that we change. Integrity is very, very important, and public service purposes. All our businesses, all our endeavors, all that we do should be also able to bring a bigger cause, bigger social cause in place. Outside circle talks about personal qualities, which are divided into 3 types. One I mentioned, emotional intelligence, then resilience, and then the learning agility. Now, emotional intelligence, 3 important aspects are holistic system thinking. We have to develop, or we have to educate ourselves in a way that we are not only looking at our part. We are also looking at different elements around a particular problem, different elements around a particular system, and a holistic thought process is there. Yeah, we need to have a visionary leadership. Visionary leadership talks about vision. Visions are not just made for 1 year, 2 years. They are for 10 years or 25 years. So those visions will fall into place. And then leadership has to have that vision of looking beyond. When the horse has been placed with the stocks, it can only see within this margins, not beyond it. These stocks have to be removed so that you can look at a bigger picture of things. Driving transformations, changing things, helping people to move towards it, and changing is very, very important. When it comes to resilience, collaborating work and developing others becomes prominent, and the learning agility, that is the immediate changes that we need to keep on doing it, will come through collective leadership, courageous communications, and brave decision making. Certain decision makings may lead into financial losses. Certain decision making may lead into making people sad. But certain decisions have to be made. Certain communications have to be done. When you see that somebody is somebody very close to you, or even it's possible that somebody who has given you a job, they are not integral to the company. Courageous decisions have to be taken and spoken to them. Okay, so these go into the outermost thrust of the outward focus, nurturing relationship, and empowered working. With this framework, a leader will build the team in these 5 stages. 1, when a leader decides what type of an activity we need to do, what type of an organization I need to build, what type of a project I am handling with, forming stage comes. So the team, he decides who are the members who will, come down and do the work. The team acquaints and establishes the ground rules. These are the ways in which we'll be doing it. The formalities are preserved and the members are treated as agents. So they start knowing each other. Okay. Then there is a storming stage. Members start to communicate their feelings with each other, and then they talk to each other. They exchange their thoughts. And there is a possibility, there is a difference of opinion between 2 people. They share their experiences, someone, and then they come down to a common platform. They have brainstormings done so that, better ideas come out of it. Third stage is known as a norming stage, where the rules and regulations of how this particular group is going to work is being set. And with that norming stage, people come to an understanding of how are we going to do a project, how are we going to work around things. Sheetal, am I audible? Just check whatever. Okay, the 4th stage is known as the performing stage. After the norms are being set, then people start working towards it. People start working towards it, and they start looking at the performance. So the team works in an open and trusting atmosphere where flexibility is the key and hierarchy is of little importance. So they work together with each other. So at this level, there is no boss, there is no reporting manager, there is no reporting colleague. Everybody works together, and objective of the goal remains to perform. The 5th stage is known as the adjourning stage, where the team conducts an assessment of the year and implements the plan of transitioning roles and recognizes members' contribution. So it's not just enough that you keep on working and you achieve the performance. What also remains important is to recognize people and reward the good performers, and also find out, what went wrong during the whole project period. When we take the next project, probably we have to look at these very points and we have to correct these points and then go towards the next level. So these are the 5 stages by which a leader will basically form the team and achieve the whole project and outcome of the project. Now, I will not go much deeper into this because these are all conventional things which we also learn in the book. But just for us to learn that there are 6 different styles of leadership which are very commonly been used. So one is commanding. In commanding, it demands immediate compliance. There are certain people who are like problematic. This particular leadership style will be used when you want to immediately put up certain things, and the leader tells it and you need to use, and the follower has to just follow it. Okay, these are the styles of Goleman. Second one is about the visionary leadership. This talks and mobilizes people towards a vision. This style works best when a clear direction or change is needed. Now, the whole vision of the company is, say, for example, you are saying that we will be treating people well. But suddenly, after 10 years, the whole vision of the company changes that we will treat the people well in the most cost-effective manner. So this sort of a vision will mobilize people towards a broader understanding and is for a longer duration. Third type of leadership style is affiliative style, which creates emotional bonds and harmony. This style works best to heal rifts in the team. Now, it could be possible that there, in between the team members, there's a lot of conflict, and the opinions are not being, accepted. They are not respected with each other. This sort of a team activity, this leadership style will work towards bridging the gap. So you basically will be the one who will act as the bridge in between two people and try to motivate people in stressful times. So affiliative leadership is used in those terms. Fourth is a democratic type of leadership, and in this, as the word very clearly says, as our country is democratic, this type of style is using everybody's opinion. So the participation is more over here. You take consensus, you take opinions, you take inputs. A lot of brainstorming has been done. People share their experiences, and based on the participant inputs, the leadership is executed. So that's known as a democratic style. Then we have a pace-setting style. In the pace-setting style, that expects excellence and self-direction. Pace means the speed, okay? This style works best to get the quick result from a highly competent team. Now, it depends. For example, in today's business scenario, you are on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of the month, and you have a business P&L to achieve. Then what happens? You immediately set your targets. Your monthly revenue was supposed to be so much. So on 28th, 29th, 30th, what businesses you will do, which specialties you will work towards, what are the things you will focus on, so that 28th business is this much, 29th is this much, 30th is this much to achieve the whole month's business. In that, if at all it is a holiday, here we have Friday, Saturday holiday. Say suppose it is a holiday, it's a Sunday. One of the days is falling Sunday. We have to keep that also in mind. Based on which the Saturday target, the Monday target will change. You see. So pace setting. This is the style at which it is used when you want immediate results, and you have a direction set and people move towards it. Okay. Lastly, it is about coaching. Now, coaching, as the word very suggests, it develops the people for the future. So this style works very best when you are helping people, you are building the long-term strength. So you work on competencies of people. So say somebody is not good at communication skills, then you arrange workshops. Like this platform is also a coaching workshop which helps us to learn about new processes, new ways of doing things. So coaching is another style of leadership. So according to Goleman, these are the 6 basic styles. Yeah, according to Goleman, these are the 6 basic styles. And in our day-to-day functioning, for every single decision, we can use either a single strategy or we can use a combination of any of these styles to work during that and to achieve that outcome. Okay, going further, I would like to talk to you about the Blake-Morton's managerial grid. This is a very common grid which has been used in management, and we understand how leader builds it up. So if you see the horizontal line, it talks about the concern for results. And when you talk about the vertical line, it talks about the concern for people. Based on this, Blake-Morton's managerial grid, he has said that the manager or the leader will have his decisions, and the way he works will be based on his concern towards these areas. So if you see on the scale, the scale is low is counted as 1 and high is counted as 9, both on the vertical as well as the horizontal scale, if you see. So look at the vertical line where the concern for result is there. Low is number 1, high is number 9. Okay, and when the concern of people comes, low is number 1, high is number 9 on the vertical line. Now there are 5 types of elements coming into this. People will be improvised management, doing improvised management if you have less concern for people, if you have less concern for results. The management or the leader which has high concern for people and low concern for result will be called as a country club management. Somebody who has a high concern for people and a high concern for result will do a team management. And a leader who has a high concern for result but low concern for people will basically produce or predict management. Okay, and there is an element in between which is known as a middle of the road management. So let me just go to an explanation into it. So this grid explains in this way. So country club management, what will happen in this? The leadership will have a thoughtful attention. This is high for people, high for production. So this will have a thoughtful attention to the needs of the people for satisfying relationship. So in a friendly manner, in such of a management, what will happen? People also are being taken care and the production is not considered too much. Outcome may not matter, but ultimately people should be taken care. That's how it happens in the country club management. When it comes to improvised management on down below, it says that nothing matters, it is just running. So these are conventional organizations. We look at the government organizations, they keep going across in their own space. It doesn't matter to them, whether the production is happening, whether the people are being taken care. It is just mainly working in their own normal norm. Then it is a team management, which is high on both the levels, for people as well as for production. Okay, so in this time, what happens? The team is very motivated. They have common objectives. They have strong objectives, real interdependence on each other. They are very committed people in this category. And then the goals automatically get achieved because you have high motivated people who know what to do. So team management brings it that type of leadership and tactics. Authority compliance comes when you have a high production. You want the outcome to happen, but it doesn't matter whether people work at what level. So for example, in a production industry, you have these many pieces have to be made in this particular hour. So if an employee works for 9 hours, this is the outcome to be made. And one employee is more than enough. So they're not looking at whether this employee is getting a break, whether this employee is being able to take his food in time, whether the employee is getting tired, is he standing for 9 hours? In such a thing, only the production matters. Employee doesn't matter. Okay, then there is something in between, which is under the middle of the range management, where every element is in between. So people part is also balanced, the production part is also balanced, and we get a balanced work out of it, and the morale of the people is very satisfactory. We maintain it at all levels throughout the period of leave. So this is nowadays very commonly used in the managerial tactics and in the leadership tactics to divide the proficiency of the team and divide the work of the year also. So I would just say that from March to April is basically normally known as a financial year of a company. So they divide that into 4 quarters, and in every quarter they have a particular style that they occupy. So most of the time you will have a team management in the first quarter, and then you go to the middle of the road management in the second quarter, and then you have the authoritative compliance at the last quarter, because at that time production, output, outcome, money, and the bank balance, your P&L, everything, profit and loss will all matter during that time. So that's how this is paced. 6 important tactics for effective leadership. Be accessible as a leader. Leaders should not always show that I'm very, very busy. There are open offices now in newer world. When you go outside and start working, everybody is accessible to everybody. There are no cabins, there is no boss ka system. There is no system where people have to just go or ever stand in front of the office for a long time and the boss is not at all available. So that scenario has changed in today's time. You need to be brave in order to face any change. Classic example is this year, where we have faced a lot of challenge, and we have all of us have faced a lot of changes. So you need to be brave to face the changes which you may never have anticipated, but you should be able to do it. Showcase servant leadership. What is servant leadership? You do it first. It is not just enough for a leader today to just say, these are the things, please start doing it. Show them how to do it. First, you do it for them, and then they automatically will follow. When a group of people know that their leader can do it, and the leader doesn't hesitate to do it, they automatically will follow it. Another one, see, now here as the picture says, the leader is, boss is telling, go work, and all employees are working. But on the other hand, the leader goes ahead and is working along with the members to put the work in together. Seek inputs on decision. Very, very important. One-way traffic doesn't work in leadership in nowadays world. It is not just enough that you dictate on what you think is right. Take the opinions of your colleagues, take the opinions of your subordinates. Those who are in the picture can matter. You know, in an organization, even a security guard can give a lot of input. You know, I'll give a classic example. One of the security guards said that if we start parking on this particular side of the company, this particular side will help the patients to easily come inside. So much of positive feedbacks came, you know. So decisions can, you know, be changing. The whole way we do things can change based on the input of a person. One, you know, customer care executive gave an example in one of the orthopedic places that let us put the self-opening doors. When we made the building, that time his input came in picture. So what happened? You know, an extra effort of a housekeeping guy, extra effort of a person putting the wheelchair in an orthopedic area where a lot of trauma comes, was taken care. So this is a brilliant idea which basically came from a CSE who was sitting in the front desk for a very long time, and he observed that people are struggling when they come inside, and you need at least 4 people for a wheelchair to be pulled in. So this simple input changed the whole decision, and the touch-based doors came in picture. So this is just an example. Openly praise good work. Very, very important. A leader should criticize people in a closed room, but you should praise the good work very openly. Everybody should know even the small effort a person does. Sometimes people are not doing too much of, you know, positive work, but there are people who are putting efforts to improve also. Even this is very important for a leader to pick up, and they should, in effective leadership, they should appreciate even this very openly in front of everybody else. And lastly, you should seek confidence for your own self. Talk to each other. Talk to yourself. Am I right? Am I good? Am I best? Am I better than yesterday? Key influencing tactics. I'll just go rush through this. It talks about rational persuasion. That means use logical arguments. Everything should be based on facts. You cannot talk to employees and the team member on some notion and some idea of yours. Have a clear-cut understanding of what is the market undergoing. What is the data that is there? Data is very, very important, girls, my dear colleagues. It's important to know what are the outcomes. You know, see, if you look at today's COVID numbers are talking every day. What do we see? These many cases have come positive. These many deaths have happened. These many have recovered. Data matters a lot. You know, the outcome measures have to be measurable. They have to be measured in terms of the efficiency, whether it is in percentage, whether it is in the value. So logical inferences is very, very important, and people follow it. If you just simply say as a leader, they will not listen to you. But if you talk to them on percentage, if you have a dashboard for yourself, which tells them, you know, this is your performance today, and that's where you have to reach. Or you are today at this level, but this is the level at which you have to reach, and this is the gap. So what do we do to bridge this gap? This is the way logical arguments go, and these tactics help a lot. So simply by giving a big lecture, nowadays people don't listen and they don't follow. Inspirational appeal is also very important. Sometimes there are situations at which a leader has to come down to, you know, ask for a help, and it is nothing wrong. You know, appealing for a help is not wrong in today's world. A leader should not think that, you know, oh, I am the big boss. Why should I even ask? But it's not a harm. See, for example, you want an employee to do an overtime. What you will do? You will have to request the person, you know. So this request is also an inspirational appeal. You know, I am there. I know I will help you out, help you know what I am supposed to do. But I need your help, and you know, I need your expertise to do this work properly. So inspirational appeal is another tactic which you should use very conventionally and appreciably wherever it is needed. Consultation is another tactic which you should use. That means seeking an expert person's advice. Somebody who knows and somebody who's an expert in this field, whether it is nursing, whether it is finance, whether it is accounting, anybody who knows the job better. Say you're doing recruitment. And in today's scenario, if now through a web series or a web platform, you need to do recruitment. Take the advice of somebody who has already done it, and you know, improvise it in your today function. Then you will be able to do it better, and you will not repeat the same mistakes which the other person has made. So we will learn from that. So taking consultation is also very important. Lastly, collaboration plays a very important role. As I was telling about networking, bridging in the gaps with different departments is very, very, very important. You know, everybody plays a crucial role in bringing the whole project together. So people's input should be taken, and we should work in collaboration with every team member. You know, today's scenario, the victory of the team is not just you being successful, but the whole team being successful. So, you know, in collaboration, I'll just give you a live example. Then when we make the KPI or a goal sheet for every employee, the goal sheet is attached to multiple areas. My goal sheet, I cannot be successful unless and until my subordinate gets successful, unless and until my operations team gets successful. So our goals are all interconnected. So collaboration is built up. So in today's world, this is how it goes. So when you go into the real scenario of working and all, this bridging of these collaborations will matter a lot. Going further, now we have to very clearly understand that whatever we were having, those same qualities are not going to lead us to success in today's scenario. We have to change. We have to really modify. We have to mold ourselves and probably keep molding us till we are there in this world of doing things. Okay. So what happens? Be very sure that you should never be comfortable. Please be sure to come out of your comfort zone and be ambiguous. Invest in consciously separating yourself from the day-to-day decisions. Every day working in the same way. Try doing things in a different manner. Try doing things in a different way so that you are more ambiguous, and then this comfort zone doesn't give you stagnation. Second important aspect is leverage the ambiguous environment. If the environment is changing, be in the prime position to launch it. I'll give you a classic example what we did it. Now COVID came in, and then people were suffering over here. Now what UAE did, it opened a lot of screening centers. Now basically sick people falling sick were very, very less. People were scared. So somebody who wants a dental provision or who wants a dermatology provision, they will not come for treatment. Children were sitting at home, schools were closed, so children pediatric was falling low. Okay, so now what came? Swab checking came. So they started building on the swab checking screening businesses. They did a large scale of screening for 10,000 people to get into this. Then they opened quarantine facilities like hotels and all. Now what? Because the guideline was telling to have a quarantine of 14 days for people who are suffering till the 2 negative samples of PCR comes. So that was a new business venture that they thought about. There was a field hospital which got opened. Why this got opened? Because everybody is not very sick to go into a hospital. All the sick people, if they go into hospital, who are critically sick will not get the beds. Who are critically requiring the ventilators will not get the beds. So what did they do? They started making a facility. So whole of a big W Trade Center was converted into a field hospital, which was able to support people with a lesser amount of oxygen required, and so that hospital will be used for the people who really need them. So what I'm saying is giving you examples of leveraging these ambiguous environments. Things are changing. So according to that, the business strategy also changes, So that's the vision with which the leadership think and make changes in their day-to-day functioning. Paint a picture of what is possible and gracefully pull people along. Here, I would like to give you the example of a Byju's app. I'm sure most of you must be using for your children, but I also use for my child. If you look at this guy's visionary leadership, he did not foresee of doing this. He started in 2008, I believe. So 2008, he foresee what is going to happen in future. People are going to sit on the laptops. People are going to study in the system. And in this year, his app has sold so much, and so much of business he has made, because every child is sitting at home and every parent wants the child to be engaged. So most of them have bought this, app. In our times, we had to exchange notebooks to get the math notes and wait for the math teachers to teach us. But today, the math formulas are just on the screen. With the touch of the screen, they are able to learn. But today, he is able to get this because he was able to paint a picture in 2008. What is 2020 going to be? You understand? So this is how a leader has to work. Invest in the forward-facing thinking. If you see this is a classic example. Many of us must have seen in the WhatsApp also. In this picture, we see on a helicopter, a person is, there is a pilot there and another one is recording. So, in the olden times, when you want an aerial view of any event to be recorded, this is how it will be. What has it replaced with? It is replaced with this. So today, both the pilot as well as the person who is taking the photograph, both of them don't have a job. So we have to think when we come out of our colleges or whatever we are working together today, will this same exist 10 years down the line or not? So it's very important for a leader to look at his own competency, what is it today, and how will the world be in 2025 or 2030, and whether I will be able to be in sync with 2025, 2030. Then only the existence can happen. Then only existence can happen in a happily manner. Last, transit from a technical responsibility to a strategic leader. Okay, whatever has been told to me, whatever I have been paid for, I keep doing that. No, but look at something which is ahead, and for that, what are the things I have to build up today so that I can become a strategic leader is what the thought of a leader should be. Okay, right. With this, some differences between how a manager is different from a leader. A manager will talk per procedures, roles, and responsibilities. But whereas a leader, he will talk to the individual in terms of the aspirations and need. What you should achieve, how you should achieve. A manager is an official authority, whereas a leader will have an authoritative individual. He will be able to make that changes in place. A manager will circulate clear targets and numericals, while a leader will, help it to be built. He will spread the vision of the business and the strategy. A manager will seek to control the people and supervise. You see, when are you coming, when are you going, how are you doing? These are the control a manager does. But a leader will build the trust and the confidence. It doesn't matter. What I matter is how you will do it. You can do it in your own speed. But a classic example is a lot of people have this time has gone to work from home. So a lot of trust and confidence has built up. The scenario has changed in the way things are working. Okay, a manager is interested in the achievements of his resources, whereas the leader promotes the growth of the team members. So it's not just to achieve things, it also does every 4 people of my team, did they also grow when this was achieved? So that's how leader looks at it. A manager will ask for actions without justifying the questions. Okay, you need not answer it, but you just tell me how did you do it. But a leader will engage with the people. They will explain the need, they will make them embrace the target. Because if you are having the target in mind and your team members don't look at it, they will not work happily towards the target. So important for a leader is that the leader will make the people feel that the target is theirs, and that's how they will work. A manager will provide directives and instructions, whereas the leader will present challenges and stimulate participation. A manager will be a team member to do what they are required to do, and it will tell them, I feel it this way, and it doesn't matter to him if the team member is demotivated or something, because the task has to be done. Whereas the leader will understand everybody's emotions, he will feel the pride of the work of the team, and he will also extend his hand if a team member is not in the right shape of his mind to do the work. A manager will communicate his passive, professional, and aloof, whereas they are passionate. Leaders are passionate for what they are doing. They will amalgamate the ideas and they will express, and with the help of effective communication, they will build it and they will bridge this gap. So we saw that leadership is varying. Okay, in the olden times, whatever we learn in our books are also that we have traditional theories of leadership, trait theory, behavioral theory, situational theory. But in today's world, it talks about transformational theory, transactional theory, and laissez-faire theory. So modern theories are talking about all these elements. Modern approaches of leadership also talks about 6 spaces, wherein we have the innovative leadership, the authoritative leadership, the paced leadership, the servant leadership, the transformational leadership, and charismatic leadership. I'll not go too much into this because these are too theoretical, and everything has its own, is a very detailed topic by itself. But if you look at it, it doesn't talk about people being born as a leader, people who are strong in their personality, people who are smart in their talk, they become the leader. It's not like that. People have to be innovative, authoritative, pace setters, servant, transformational, and charismatic. These are the modern concepts in leadership. Here, is very beautifully depicted. In the past, a traditional leader was sitting on the top. All the team members will be low, and you are at the top. But now, as the wolf example goes, alpha wolf example goes, a leader is below, but he's lifting the team up. You see, he is not just sitting at one corner in the day, but he's lifting the team up, and the whole team gets elevated because of the leader. So traditional and collaborative leaders do have a difference. If you see the first point, the traditional leader believes in the power, and it comes from his power of authority. I am so and so, because of my power, I will be able to do this. You have to follow this. But collaborative leadership believe is in the power of being together. Okay, they build up everybody together. In traditional leadership, they will maintain the ownership of information. You see, I know this stuff, I will never teach it. It is my baby. I will never give it to others. But in collaborative leadership, you will openly inform. Whatever is the communication from the top management, you will meet the team, you will talk to the team, you will tell to the team, and bring everybody together. So information and knowledge is shared in collaborative leadership. In traditional leadership, sometimes they listen to the suggestions and ideas from the team. It is very selective. I want to, I will listen. It's not like that. In collaborative leadership, you are encouraging people to give suggestions. You are getting their ideas, and you want them to contribute towards the success of the process. In traditional leadership, you deliver the approved solution to their team. You have already decided this is what I am supposed to do, this is what the team is supposed to do, and you do it. But in collaborative leadership, you will facilitate a lot of brainstorming. You will make people to think. You will make people to come out of better ideas. And as a leader, you will enable them to make decisions, which is very, very important. Building people is the very important and crucial step in today's leadership. Traditional leadership will allocate the time and resources only when proven necessary. You will tell them this much of money you have to use, these many people you have, these are the things that you have to use. This is very clearly been allocated already. But in a collaborative leadership, you will enable the team to allocate the time, resources right away. So you will ask the team, what do they want? What is the team's requirement? Based on the team's input, you will be collaborating. In the collaborative leadership, you will allow them to use those resources. In traditional leadership, you will adhere to the specific roles and responsibilities. Say A person has to do a job, B has to do a job, you will stick on to that. But in a collaborative leadership, you will allow the roles and responsibilities to evolve and fluctuate. Today, this person is not come, okay, so you start doing this job. So, there is a mix of things. You will help people to multitask. You will help people to learn new skills. So that's how collaborative leaders work. In a traditional leader, you're always firefighting. A problem happens, then you will find the solution. You will go back to a root cause analysis of a problem, and then you will solve the problem for that time. But in a collaborative leadership, you will find what exactly went wrong. What exactly went wrong? If this has gone wrong, after the root cause analysis, you find a reason to it. You will ensure to come back and build a process around it. So collaborative leaders will build processes around it so that you will never face this problem again in the future. So that's the difference between a traditional leader and a collaborative leader. Okay. Now in traditional leadership, for employee performance and all, you will review based on the KPI given to you, goal sheet given to you. At the year end, you will call the employee and you will tell, this is what it is. You did this much, you did 4, you did 5, you did 3. This is how a conventional traditional leader talks. But in a collaborative leadership, what happens? You will every day have a feedback with your employee, or on a very frequent basis, you will be talking to them, and ongoing feedbacks are either given and even taken. You see, so what happens? You don't wait from March to April to get the change in a person. You will keep on doing it on a day-to-day basis. So this slide very beautifully depicts how things had been in the past and how it is required in today's world as well as in the future. A collaborative leader will definitely be successful. So for all of us, if most of you may be students, but when you come to the real world, collaborative leadership should be kept in mind. We should understand that the more we are able to bridge people, build people, we will be more successful in any small to a big role that you play. Okay, so quickly I will go through the 10 leadership principles. This is a little vast, but I think I'm running out of time, but I will still go through this. In order to be very successful in today's world, 10 of the practical things that we should do is, one is that you engage the hearts and minds of people. Okay, make sure that you know your team, you're talking to the people, you're understanding their family backgrounds, you're understanding their situations that they are going through. That particular day also, what did they go through? Very, very important. So the leader should always talk to his team. He should come out of his chamber, go and sit in the place where the employee sits and talks and works out. So influence others to accomplish what is needed. Very important. When you talk to people, they get carried away because they get obliged that if you are a boss and you can come and speak to me, why can't I work for you? This feeling comes. So that emotion helps them to do things for you. Facilitate people through the risk and the change. Now there are a lot of changes which will keep on happening. You ask people to just do this the way we are telling you to do, very difficult. But you go handhold them, help them. You work around networks, help them to bridge the gap in between theirs and other departments. Help them to execute the vision. Help them to lead. Help them to understand their weaknesses. Work on the strength that they have, and handhold them when they are stuck somewhere. Instead of saying you are useless, you cannot do anything, instead of that, you go there, help them in doing it. So this is very important. So engaging the hearts and minds of the people is very important tactics in today's world. Specifically, 2020 has taught us a lot doing this, and I believe everybody will be, be able to make the best out of it through this tactic. Building and nurturing those relationships, build it up, not just make relationship, but also build a relationship and let that continue for a very long time. Second is an adaptive leader. So the new type of a leader is a catalyst. Okay, it has to be transformational. If you look at the image which I have put over here, the lady looks like she's looking at all these things, but behind her, the shadow looks like a superwoman. So you have to convert yourself into that. You may be a very timid personality, a seed basically, but you are actually reflecting yourself as a big tree. So in today's climate, executives must quickly adapt and make decisions whenever needed. Okay, the rate of change is very fast. In the past, we used to say that change is constant. Now we say that the rate of change is constant. So change definitely will happen, but the speed at which change is happening is very constant. Okay, so that's the reason we have to adapt to the changes very fast and be very, very transparent and consistent. You should know what you're doing. You should be able to tell to others what you're doing. There is nothing hiding, seeking business, and consistent. Whatever is being said should always follow. Take actions to create the stability within the environment and continue to deliver quality services despite of the level of disruptive change. So changes may keep on happening, but continue to deliver the patient satisfaction, employee satisfaction in the same manner. Thirdly, adaptive leader builds skills for unlocking the potential in people. As I said, if you understand your people very well, you talk to them, you will understand who is weak in communication, who is strong in IT skills, who is weak in the ability to take things together. You work on their skills and competencies and bridge those gaps by providing them educational backgrounds. Mobilize collective wisdom. Very, very important that everybody's wisdom is being used so that your success works around it. Lead collaborative, innovative methodologies. Thirdly, the slippery slope of overconfidence should be very clearly judged. As a leader, sometimes it happens that I know what I'm doing, I know what are my limitations, I know what is going to be the future. This overconfidence in us can sometimes lead into a lot of struggle. So the overconfident leader can negate the leadership qualities you want within your organization and can cross the line to a danger zone. That's very, very important to understand where it is crossing, and it can actually lead an organization also into a danger zone. Executives' overconfidence has been blamed for companies' failures and financial distress within the organization. Sometimes the bluff decisions that they make, thinking that I know everything, can lead into a lot of struggle to the confidence. And overconfidence can hinder a leader's authenticity. Your own value will get lost if you all the time show the employees that I know everything, you are nobody. Okay, and this becomes a enmity of humility, and it can also stain the whole image. Fabric of an organization means the image of an organization. It can put the whole organization at risk. So overconfidence of a leadership can definitely matter. So this is a very slippery ground. Confidence of drawing the line between confidence and overconfidence is very critical, and leaders should draw those lines. Fourth is listen and keep quiet. It's very important to shut up and listen many a times. Unlearning everything that you know is the step for the position to be a good listener and learning. Listen from your colleagues, listen from your teammates, listen from everybody who is talking to you. Don't just only talk, but also take their feedback and input. Very, very important. Executives must create a different type of operating system to interact. You should create an environment where people are free to communicate. They will come and tell you what is right, what is wrong. A very open environment. So it is very important to listen and to keep quiet at many occasions as a leader. Calm within the storm. When everything else is around them is getting turbulent, what we need, the executive presence is a vital leadership. Sometimes you being over there itself will make a lot of difference. You need not make a lot of charisma around things. You just be there. Your presence itself will come, but you need to be very, very calm in that storm. So everybody else can express everything, talk to you, their ambiguity, their uncertainty, they will express it. But when you are confident and calm, you will be able to give them the confidence, yes, everything will be okay. So that's how a leader has to work. So inner clarity and conviction is very important. First of all, we ourselves should be very, very convicted. I am going to face the situation and I am going to come out of this. We are going to work together towards it. Have a presence of look for the best in the people's knowledge. Every single individual is different, as we learned initially also. So pick up the best from everybody. Everyone has faults, but they may mistake, including me. I will make mistakes, but try to work on what is their strength. Focus on what matters. Okay, don't focus on how somebody said it, why somebody said it, but focus on this is important. Ultimately the outcome is important, but everything else should not matter. Many times I tell my staff, when you have a miscommunication with other department, don't think about this girl is always like this, this receptionist will always talk to me like this. No, don't create an image for a person. You should solve the problem, and you should not try to solve the person. That is how things work better. Don't confuse urgent for necessary. Everything is not immediate, everything. The priority of finishing a job is very important for a leader. Everything I want to finish it now. All the mails in my inbox, I want to see it now itself. No, don't do that. Categorize your work in a priority manner. What needs more attention? Please take it up. The Pareto rule works here also. 20% of the things are responsible for 80% of the problem. So don't waste your time on 80% of those solving for 20%. Look out for the 20% where you have to initiate and invest your time to make that difference. Quickly, I will run through the next 5 points. Be calm in the chaos and remain very present. Delve deeper means you go basically more into your own strengths and passions and areas of development. And I can do anything mantra does not work in the world. So change, you have to get a 360-degree feedback Your leadership feedback you should get from others also. Ask your colleagues, ask your other department peers whom you are working with. Get a 360-degree understanding of your personality. That's how leaders will be successful. Appreciate your motivators, those who are motivating you, giving you strength and understanding and giving you development areas. Appreciate them and improve the conversations with the team of how effective communication can flow up the down. Talk to them and flow the information down as well. Invest in executive coaching. Very important it is that you yourself should go into executive coaching. Don't just stick with what you know already, but keep on improvising your education, build your skills, continuously improve and develop skills. Be committed to have a safe place of growth and learn and challenge. Accountability and consequences. Please have standards of performance in place. These standards will help you to set the standards, measure the standards, compare the actual to the established standards, take corrective action, use information. Every level of job should set standards. This is the benchmark, and this benchmark has to be achieved by what? Where are we now? This is the benchmark. What is the gap in between? What should we do to build the gap? It should be there in every single activity, and we should understand that time expectations are there. Time is very finite. Expectations can be many, but time is very limited. So in that time, you have to choose very, very wise. So choose well. All right. Direction, objectives, desired results, intent, very important. Delegate what and how. Delegating is very important. Don't do everything by yourself. Leaders make a mistake. I want to do everything by myself. No. Do delegate. Do delegate to all the people who can help you in achieving it. Give proper direction to the people. How to achieve it. Okay. And make the objectives very clear. Recall the objectives again and again. Strengthen the brand. Increase the market share. Decrease the spending. Reduce the cost. Increase the profits. Okay. Quantify those objectives. How you will quantify it, either in percentages, either in money, either in numbers, but quantify it so that you will be able to get a desired result and you will have measurable goals. Tell people how their objectives fit for others' objectives. That's why, as I was telling, it's my objective and my goal sheet cannot be achieved unless operations achieve their goals. So together we have to achieve as a team. Lastly, the resources, all the 5 resources: man, machine, management, method, and material. And the effect of this has to be looked. So all the resources have to be properly delegated, people that are required for success, the financial investment that is needed, appropriate technical support that is needed, operational systems and support that you have to make. You have to assess it very clearly as a leader and use it in a very professional manner. Common blocks that we have as a leader is that you have excessive focus and you have a fixed intent. You don't think beyond it. You are just fixed and then you make decisions based on those responses. Fail to understand and underestimate the scale, breadth, and speed of the crisis is another stumbling block. Another mistake that we make is making poor decisions and unintentionally causing harm. Okay. What else happens is not taking time to make sense for the chaotic inflow of the information and answering everything whatever is coming in. Okay. So to conclude, what does it all mean? It just means that leadership is about spreading the magic and not being the magic. I am sure I was very fast and I hope I've given a justice in terms of talking. With this, I would like to end the content over here and would like to receive questions, please. Yes, please.
Hello, everybody. You can ask your queries and questions. Either you can type in comment box or you can speak. Dear participants, you are requested to type your queries in comment box. I think there is no question. Saino madam has explained leadership and tactics in very simple language by giving day-to-day means daily examples, means how you can apply leadership and tactics in your work area.
So I hope when there are no questions, there are 2 elements to it. Either you have understood everything or you have not understood anything. But I will take the first part of it because I believe that every one of us is a leader. And all of us have to, show the leadership in one way or the other. Even our mothers are leaders. And so every element of our life, we have to show leadership. I'm sure, I hope this is helpful to all of you. And in simple ways, it is gone to the level where it has to achieve, Yeah.
How can you achieve your goal? Gloria has asked, So Gloria, I would like to say that you must be able to explain your objective to your team members. Means what do you want to achieve from your team members? You should be able to explain them. And you
Yes.
should be transparent in your communication. You should be flexible. You should be accountable, authentic, whatever you are doing for achieving your organizational goals.
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing, Gloria. The question is a very nice question. How do you achieve our goals? So it's very good that we have a goal in mind. But in order to achieve the goal, there is a time in between, and there are certain steps which you have to take. So what you do is break down the goal into certain steps, certain smaller objectives, and achieve objective one by one, and then you will ultimately achieve what you are wanting to achieve by achieving this smaller bit of it. There are multiple elements in achieving the ultimate goal of it. So you should break it down and start working on those smaller elements, and you will ultimately get into what you're looking forward to.
Adnan is asking, ma'am, whether nurse should act as leader.
Nurse is a leader. Oh, nurse doesn't have to act as a leader. Nurse is a leader. You will not believe, in a working scenario, Adnan, nurse is the one who is the epitome of everything. She is the center of point for a communication, for a clinician, for a patient, for anybody, for operations. Everything is a nurse. Nurse plays a very crucial leadership role. She is a counselor, she is an adapter, she is a nurse. She acts like a doctor all the time around the patient, convincing people. Leadership really plays a vital role when it comes down to a nurse. Nurse really matters a lot. They also manage a lot of inventory, companies cost in inventory, companies cost cutting. They can play a major role by understanding where are the areas where the bills are getting lost, where are the areas where revenue is getting lost, where are the areas by which I can do the cost saving. They can amplify in terms of doing things, what type of patients are coming, what types of patients go back because we don't have services. They give their ideas by adding new platforms to the service. They definitely are leaders, Adnan.
One more question by Adnan only. Can we call adjourning phases as evaluatory phase?
Can we call adjourning phases as evaluatory phase? Most of it, yes, you can call it, because you are actually assessing. When you evaluate, you only say right and wrong to things. But adjourning gives you both compliments. You are looking at your weaknesses, and you are also appreciating. If you remember, I mentioned there, rewarding the employees, rewarding the team for the accomplishment is important. In an evaluation, we give right and wrong to people, but we don't celebrate the success. So adjourning, we celebrate the success. In the same time, we learn from our mistakes, and we also celebrate the success of people. So, like for example, R&R programs are there in companies. They will appreciate the reward and recognition programs are there in the companies. So you adjourn the people, and this phase helps in building up. So people, when you have adjourning phase, it also motivates others to do it. So today the other person got the reward. Tomorrow I may be in that situation. That's how it goes. And evaluation will not give you that whole view to it. That's how it differs.
Ruby Yadav has asked how a leader can motivate their team to achieve goals.
Yes, leader, definitely. See, the whole gist of the whole talk which I have done is, first of all, leader should be very clear of the goals. Number two, he should communicate consistently. Communication is the key. Now, whatever you want to achieve, if you keep it to yourself, your team will never be able to achieve it. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie Mars, where Vidya Balan and everybody is there. I'm not very sure. I know movies help us to relate things better. So initially, those 4 or 5 people were disconnected. They never had the goal common to them. It is very important for a leader to make the goal common for everybody. If you have 6 members in the team, every single person should relate to the goal. Every member should feel why this goal is important to that person. when you have to put, and you have to use different strategies. For somebody, family is more important. For somebody, passion of the work is more important. For somebody, name is more important. There are different elements of, motivation to everybody. We have to, that's the reason I was telling that we have to speak to our team. We should know our team members and understand what matters to them the most. Through that, you should get the goal in their hearts. And when everybody will be towards the same goal, automatically it will be achieved. You never have to put any actions to do it. But it's important to cascade it down to them, cascade it to them.
Rajita has asked, can you describe the theories of leadership? So Rajita, I would like to say that if we are going to talk about theories, it will take another an hour. So it's better you go through the books and you can search for your topic online.
Because theories are available everywhere. You can read through in the text.
Non-theory is able to describe actually what is leadership. Whatever you are doing in your daily life, in your work area, if you are able to motivate your colleagues, your team worker, means you are a good leader. So we are running out of time. So with this, we are concluding this session. So I would like to give heartiest thanks to Ms. Saino Thomas for accepting our request to be a speaker and talking on this very effective and relevant topic, like how we can use leadership tactics in our work area. And I would like to give heartiest thanks to Choithram management for providing us this platform to conduct this webinars, and bouquet of thanks to our respected principal, Dr. Aradhna Michael, for her constant support and motivation behind organizing this webinar. And I would like to give thanks to all my team members for their direct and indirect support. And last but not the least, thank you to each and everyone who have attended this webinar. So with this, we are concluding the webinar. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.